Hello and welcome to this new series. It's been a while since I've posted a video, and it's because I've been planning a few things that are all kind of interconnected, including a new introduction to Python for the Digital Humanities textbook, which should be coming out shortly in the next few weeks, as well as a whole new set of videos that'll teach you how to work with Anaconda, and a couple series that are based around BERT language models. This series is meant to kind of tie into all these things at the same time, and hopefully they're all going to start coming out now on a more regular basis with each week. This video is meant to serve as the first of a few on a project that I'm particularly excited about called BookNLP. It comes from, you can access the link here, I'll put a link in the description down below, but it comes from a scholar out of the University of California, Berkeley, and what it is it's a language framework, essentially, that wraps around Spacey, leverages really large language models called BERT language models. Again, I'll have some videos coming out explaining what these are, why they're useful, and how to use them for different tasks, such as named entity recognition and entity or topic modeling and topic finding. Again, I'll be talking about all those and a couple other series around key BERT. So what this is, though, BookNLP, is it's a framework designed specifically to take in very large documents, meaning book-length documents or documents that aren't necessarily books, but just very long. The way BERT language models work is they are limited in the amount of characters or tokens that they can actually take in, and typically these are going to be around 500 tokens, meaning longer documents typically don't do very well with BERT language models. What BookNLP leverages are BERT language models, and it allows for you to pass in very little amounts of code. I'm going to be demonstrating this here in just a second. What it allows for you to do is to take a text like what we're going to be working with, the first book of Harry Potter, which is 99,000 characters long, or words long, sorry. And what it allows for you to do is take this essentially unstructured data, because these line blocks have not been removed. I have not done anything to clean it, and it allows for you to take this in and convert it into what BookNLP calls a .book file. Now, the .book file looks like this and can be difficult to parse as a human, but there is a .book.html file which converts that .book file into something like this, which is much more parsable by a human set of eyes. It extracts things like named characters. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, named characters, that's just NER. We can do NER with Spacey, we don't need a special library for this. Well, one of the nice things about BookNLP is it collects and clusters all the characters to identify characters that are the same. Take a look at these different ways in which Harry is referenced. There are 666 times that Harry is referenced just with the name Harry. And again, you'll see that it's not entirely perfect, as we'll see down here, where Harry is misidentified separately. We also see that he is sometimes referred to as Potter 45 times, Harry Potter 24 times, Mr. Potter 11 times, Mr. Harry Potter, to be very formal, twice, and we see some problems. Harry hunting, which is the event in which Dudley, his cousin, bullies him with his friends. This is a false positive. The Harry Potter. This is, I think, a snide Malfoy might make at one point. I'm not entirely sure. Even Harry. This is again a false positive. And as we get further down, we have fewer occurrences and the higher degree to which these are probably going to be false positives. But what we have is this incredible ability to cluster and automatically link different ways Harry or any character is referenced within the text pretty effectively and efficiently. We even have Ron being referenced as just simply Weasley, and Ickle Ronnie, which I think, I'm not sure, I didn't go back and check, but I think this is one of the things that Peeves calls Ron Weasley at some point when he's making fun of him, the poltergeist in Hogwarts. So if we go down the list, we can see that you actually have this very, very nice output. It also has the different organizations. It has the different vehicles. So in this case, train, car, boat, etc. on down the list. So it's got these typical NER output as well. But one of the things that makes this particularly useful and intriguing to me as a historian is that you also have this output of the entire text fully annotated with unique identifiers being associated with each entity. So in this case, Harry Potter, the main character, has a unique identifier of 95-Harry, so that you can perform the task entity linking and correctly link individuals to their various ways in which they're referenced throughout a text. Now, as a historian or just a humanist in general, this is really cool to do with a fictional book like Harry Potter, but one of the things that we're going to do in this series is we're going to see the degree to which this library can be applied and leveraged with historical documents, meaning how can it handle, and we're going to look at specifically testimonies or different kinds of historical documents to do things like entity linking and also co-reference resolution. Again, I'll be explaining all this throughout this video series, but I wanted to start off this video with probably the most challenging thing about BookNLP and probably the most frustrating is if you go to the repo, again, the link is in the description down below, you're given the ability to launch this inside of Google Colab. If you don't know about Google Colab, it's essentially a Google platform. Think of it as Jupyter Notebooks or Jupyter Lab that allows for you to do everything except on Google servers, and everything is going to work perfectly fine for you. And the reason for this is because Google Colab is a Linux environment, meaning it is not Windows, right? So when you try to use BookNLP on a Windows system, you are going to have several problems. The two of which that I know of, I'm going to talk about in this video. If you encounter problems either shortly after I post this video or even a couple years down the road, let me know in the comments. I'm trying to get better about responding more promptly to comments, and I'll do my best. But let's jump into two notable issues right now. So if we look at the documentation, it tells you that you need to use in order to install it, and this is how I would recommend installing it because it's a pretty comprehensive library. You need to install it this way. Now, this is maybe not exactly what you're used to. You're probably used to just doing Pip Install Book Nlp. I'm going to cover this a lot more in depth in a forthcoming video on how to install Python for new users, and I'm encouraging my viewers to start installing it via Anaconda Individual Edition installer. So what you want to do is you want to go to this link here, anaconda.com/products/individual, and go ahead and click download. And you're going to go ahead and let that download. It's quite large, half a gigabyte, and install it on your local machine. Once you've gone through the process of installing, you're going to actually have something that looks like this over here on the left. And you're going to have something that, if you click on this Environments tab right here, is really just going to have this base root there. This is your base environment. Again, I'm going to describe all this in my How to Install Python video that's going to be coming out hopefully in a few weeks when the whole video series is finished. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on base root. Again, you might not have to because it might be there. And you're going to just let it kind of load up. It'll take it a second for me because I have... my computer is doing a few different things at the moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions that we have right here once it all gets loaded up. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this play symbol, and I'm going to click Open Terminal. What you should see is something that looks like this, where you have base and parentheses right here. This is the environment in which we're working in this case, our base root environment. And you should see where you actually are on your computer. Now, the terminal can be a little scary sometimes. Again, my video is going to explain what environments are, why they're useful, and other things like that. For now, just understand that what we're going to be doing is creating a custom environment where we can have a custom install of Python and a custom set of libraries that can be used in an isolated space. This is really useful when you're working with more advanced libraries like BookNLP, which leverage multiple other libraries, which is why it's going to take a little while to install. And that means that you can actually have different versions of multiple libraries installed on one machine. So what I'm going to do, and again, you can copy and paste if you want to. I'm going to write it out. You're going to say conda create. This is a conda terminal command that allows you to create a new environment. It's going to take an argument here of name. This is going to be what we call it. Now, I already have BookNLP on my computer, so I'm going to just say maybe BookNLP2, just to distinguish between the two different environments. You will name yours BookNLP, and you're going to specify the Python version, in this case 3.7. Now this will take just a few seconds to create. And your computer, depending on how fast it is, what kind of processor you have, it might take a little bit of time. What this is going to simply tell us is that we need to install all these new packages. We're going to hit yes, for Y for yes, and hit enter. And again, this will take just a few more seconds, and we should have the environment essentially set up, and we do. So now what we need to do, now that we have it set up, is we need to activate it. That's what this next command is. When you activate an environment, it's when you kind of open it up within the terminal, and that's the environment in which you're going to be working. Conda activate. Activate, there we go. And we're going to activate booknlp 2 in my case. You're going to say booknlp. And the reason why I'm doing 2 is because I already have a booknlp 1. Now, once you've got to this stage, you should see this change right here from base to the environment name. In my case, booknlp 2, but in your case, booknlp. Now, once we're here, we're going to do 2 things. The first thing we're going to do is install booknlp the way you're used to. So pip install book nlp. This is going to take a very long time. It has to install a lot of dependencies. SpaCy is a large library. PyTorch is a large library. TensorFlow is a large library. These are all used for machine learning. You can see it's going through. And I did this on my machine, and it took, I think it was about 5 to 10 minutes to do. I didn't actually time it. But go ahead and pause the video right here for just a few seconds and follow along. Install everything here with booknlp, and then we're going to be installing the special spaCy model that we need, in this case ncore web sm. So go ahead and pause, let this whole thing run. I'm going to go ahead and pop back once this finishes installing. Okay, now once that's installed, you're going to click Launch Jupyter Lab, which is going to pop up a local host version of Jupyter Lab. And again, Jupyter Lab is just a nice way to kind of work with Jupyter notebooks in some kind of more systematic way. It's what I use for all of my coding whenever I'm using Jupyter. And so what you're going to do once you get to this stage, you're going to just minimize this folder button over here and just click on Python 3 IPY kernel as a notebook, and it should look something like this. Now at this stage, we're going to go ahead and just work with the documentation. We're going to copy and paste in from booknlp.booknlp. And again, I'm not going through the documentation right now. I'm just getting you to this stage so you can see a problem that you're going to have as soon as you start working with booknlp on Windows. And you're going to execute these first 3 commands here. Now, what you're going to see is going to take a little bit of time. What's happening is booknlp is going to Hugging Face, which is the main repository for a lot of different BERT or large language models. And what it's doing is it's downloading all of these models. Now, I'm going to be pausing the video again here because once you start doing this on your local machine and do it, you're going to have a very big problem after the models download when it tries to load the models. And the reason for this is because of how the booknlp library is trying to call the models once they're installed locally. And I think it's a problem with Windows because I've been able to make it work just fine with Linux. So again, pause the video, let this happen. There's going to be an error probably for you, and I'll show you how to fix that error in just a second. In order to install Git on Windows, you can go to here. If you just type in install Git on Windows, click the first link. It'll walk you through all the different operating systems. If you scroll down, it'll be right here where you can see installing on Windows. You're going to click this link and you're going to install the correct version for your setup, either 62 or 32-bit. Once you go through and follow all the installation processes, you'll have Git installed in your on your computer. And once you do, you'll be able to follow the next steps. I know these are a lot, but booknlp is such a really good library that it's worth actually taking the time to do this. So the first thing you're going to do is going to go to this first link. This is the link for the entities model. And you're going to take that link and you're going to copy it. So in this case, I'm going to copy this whole link right here. This is the entities one. And then I'm going to open up a command prompt. And I'm going to navigate by using cd, so change directory, booknlps, and then cd once again. And I'm going to go into the entities Google area right here. Now, once I actually have, I'm in this directory, at this point I can use Git Commands. The only command that you really need to know about is git clone, and I'm going to paste in that repository. Now, if I go to my booknlps and I go to entities.google, I was in the had the wrong link there. If we go to again git clone and we paste in that link, and again I'll make sure the link is correct in the description down below, you'll notice that it's going through and grabbing all of the data off of that Git repository. If we open up Entities Google now, you'll see that the repo is in fact being populated within that directory. What you're going to have to do is go through and manually download from the actual Hugging Face repository each of these different things. And again, I'll have a link in the links in the description down below for the correct repositories that you need to go to get all of that data. So this is going to be the link for, I believe, let me just make sure, the co-ref model. The co-ref model and the speaker model are the exact same. So there's not really a need to do this twice, but I'm going to go ahead and do it twice just to be safe. And to speed things along, I'm going to go ahead and pop into co-ref right here. I'm going to click up here on Windows, and in Windows I can just type in cmd and open up the command prompt, and I can go ahead and run git clone and paste in that repo for that area, and then I'm going to do the same thing for speaker_Google cmd. This is just to speed things up a little bit. And I'm going to run git clone, and I'm going to do the same thing with that next repo that's on that list. Again, you can use this link for the GitHub issues, or you can just look at the links that I have down below. Once all of these finish running, you will have all the different repos, or all the different models and their repos installed in the correct area. And the good news is once you have this done, everything with BookNLP will almost work. There's going to be one more step that you're going to have to do, and it's not that difficult if you follow with the steps I'm going to give you. Essentially, you're going to have to alter one of the functions within the BookNLP local install on your machine. But let's go ahead and just check on all of these. Again, these are probably going to take just a few minutes to do. Just pull up the right ones. Okay, the entities one is complete. I'm going to go ahead and close that. We don't need it anymore. And it's probably best if you're new to this just to do it one at a time. I'm going to pause the video here. I'll pop back once these have finished downloading from Hugging Face. Okay, so officially we've got these repos now downloaded onto our local drive. And so let's go ahead and let's maximize this real fast. I'm going to close this again. And let's go ahead now and try and rerun all of this. And we're not going to see anything download anymore because we've already downloaded everything. And what we should see is that it's going to connect correctly and not have any errors. Notice now we do not have any errors. Instead, it says startup in 7.616 seconds. We've now manually downloaded all of those repositories, and that problem is now officially solved. So let's go ahead and bring this to the side and go back to the repo. Again, we're going to be following the documentation. And again, I'm going to go over this in the next few videos. Again, this is just about installation. And we're going to be copying in this here. And I'm going to be changing this because I've got a Harry Potter file stored locally in this directory. And I'm going to just be changing all of these to Harry Potter. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have a Harry Potter folder. I don't think I do yet. And again, I'm going to actually have a proper repository for this whole thing. This is just the first paragraph of Harry Potter, just to show you the next error that you're going to encounter on Windows is a Unicode decode error. Now, this might be scary at first. And if you're not familiar with these kinds of problems, it means that there is a problem at the byte level. And I don't really know why this is occurring unless it's about how the data is being stored in the JSON files. If you go into the issues on the repo, make sure I give credit where credit is due, you'll notice a couple people have had this problem. If you click on the Unicode problem, it'll walk you through the solution. Essentially, what you're going to want to do is find where BookNLP is installed on your computer and go to this directory. And all you're going to do is you're going to change the open file name to open file name encoding is equal to UTF-8 so that it is going to be opening up the file with a UTF-8 encoding, which is Unicode, which means that this error will go away. So this sounds complicated and difficult to do, but let's go ahead and let's walk through it step by step. So one of the things I need to do is I need to first figure out where this file is located. Now, because I'm using Anaconda, it's going to be here in this directory under Anaconda 3, environments, envs, booknlp2, lib, site packages, booknlp. Your machine will tell you specifically where the file is at that's returning the error. And in our case, it's going to actually be this gender inference underscore model underscore 1. So let's go ahead and pop back to our user, which is where Anaconda installs by default. We're going to look for Anaconda 3. So it's right here. We're going to then go into libs. Apologies. Let me go over here and just make sure. Envs, which is the environments. This will take a second. Within here, I'm going to look for booknlp2, which is the environment in which we are working. And then from here, I'm pretty sure it's libs. Nope, site packages. Maybe. Let's go ahead and just double check real fast. I always get these confused in my head. No, it's lib. Sorry. In my case, it's capitalized. And then you're going to go down to site packages. And within site packages, you're going to locate the booknlp right here. You're going to click on that. And then I believe it's under English. Let me just make sure. Yes, English gender inference model. That's the Python file that we're going to be editing here. This is going to open up for me in Atom. It'll open up in whatever IDE you have assigned to open up Python files. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down, and I'm actually just going to use Control F here. So let's go ahead and look for the file that we're actually, or the part of the file that we're looking for. It's going to be this function right here. Oh, sorry. There we go. Control F search. Oh, I've opened up booknlp by mistake. Apologies. We're going into English. We're going to be going into the gender inference model underscore 1. And then we're going to be looking for this particular function. And we're going to be changing it by just adding this little bit right here to the open part. Let's Control F, find it. Now, under this function, we see with open file name. You're going to change this to file name, comma, encoding equals UTF-8. Again, if this problem isn't surfacing for you at a later date, it means this problem has been resolved. But once you save, we can close that once it's saved. We can pop back up, and we're going to need to rerun everything so that it reloads in the library with our corrected function. And again, this will just take a second. And also, again, I'm not explaining what's happening here, just troubleshooting all the problems that are going to surface for you on Windows. And now we see everything is happening as we want it to happen. The error has not surfaced, and we've successfully created the .book file in our Harry Potter folder. Again, this is not the repo that I'm going to be putting out, but you'll be able to go to, where is it? Harry Potter. My alphabet is failing me. There we go. And you'll see that you have the successful output of the .book file and the book.html file. So everything is loaded up correctly. Again, this was just the first paragraph, but you see we have successfully gotten everything to work correctly on Windows. If you've managed to get to this stage, it means that BookNLP will now work for you locally on your Windows machine. I know these are a lot of steps. Again, if you want to avoid all of these entirely, what you can do is you can just run everything inside of Google Colab. But this is going to raise problems for you because it's difficult to save data from Google Colab. You'll have instances where the connection will drop and you'll lose all your progress, and you'll have to go back and redo it. And if you're working with a short text like Harry Potter, which is only 100,000 words, it took me 10 minutes to actually go through and create the entire file. You can be doing this time and again as you're kind of trying to troubleshoot everything. So I encourage you, If you are getting these errors on Windows, try to overcome them with the steps I provided you and GitHub has provided you in the community section. And do get it to work locally so that you can kind of do some quick, rapid experimentation on your local machine rather than in the cloud. That's going to be it for this video. In the next few videos, we're going to start tackling the BookNLP library and actually start working with it, not just installing it. We're going to work with Harry Potter to get our feet wet with the syntax of the BookNLP library, what a .book file is and how to parse it. And then we're going to be working with it as historians and working through historical documents. If that sounds interesting, then stick around for the next few videos as we start to explore BookNLP. Thanks for listening, and as always, thank you so much to everyone on this channel for keeping it alive and supporting it financially. I do all this for free. If you want to contribute, please do consider supporting it either via the YouTube link down below, where you can kind of support it that way, or via Patreon, also included in the link down below.